They found him guilty, and yet he walks away as if nothing even happened. A felony conviction and still no jail time? Cassie spoke the truth. The jury heard it. But in the end, power won, money won, and Sean Diddy Combs walked away like he always does, untouchable.
You may have heard that Sean Diddy Combs was acquitted of the most serious charges against him. He was found guilty of transportation to engage in. Now the two sides are arguing over how much time that should get him.
He's not going to be seeing the maximum. He probably won't even be seeing the minimum. They might just let him walk away with being forced to play League of Legends solo queue for like 2 months or something, and that'll be his punishment. It is such a joke what just happened here. I actually still can't believe it. It is sickening. So I truly wouldn't be surprised if he just fully walks free from this, and I guess we can expect the grand reopening of Puffy Flavor Camp. Everyone out there, sleep in fear. Make sure you're sleeping on your back.
They should let Puffy out now. I mean, to have him guilty of that, not that, but this, still shows a W in certain areas of this whole thing, because he could still get 3 years, 10 years, you just don't know. I feel like time served is enough.
I think the government re-traumatized victims, Cassie in particular, and they just put on a distraction. They put on a show to have us all look and point and say, when the real puppet masters, the real crimes, the real things we've heard about Diddy go unchecked.
The man who once controlled Cassie's music, her image, her everything, just walked free from the most explosive trial of the decade. Sean Diddy Combs has just been found not guilty on federal charges of and racketeering. And Cassie Ventura, she's not celebrating, she's breaking down. Live in front of the world. This isn't just courtroom drama anymore. This is Cassie's worst nightmare unfolding in real time.
It's a mixed verdict, but it is a stunning victory for the defense. The Mann Act, these charges, these were the easiest for prosecutors to prove, the lowest hanging fruit, merely required showing that state lines were crossed for the purpose to engage in. We saw a lot of evidence on these charges, did not have that element, Laura, of force, fraud, or coercion. And this carries the lightest sentence of these charges. It is a maximum of 10 years. And keep in mind, when you're talking about maximums, maximums aren't the rule, they are the exception. They're for the most exceptional and severe cases. So now you're talking about a sentence that's potentially in the lower range with time served because he's been behind bars. The fact that these trafficking charges, specifically with respect to Cassie Ventura, means that the jury was convinced by the defense, at least with respect to reasonable doubt, that the commercials, i.e. the freak-offs, were not connected to some of this violence, that there was not that force, fraud, or coercion element. That is, by far, from a penalty perspective, the most serious. It carried a 15-year minimum. So that is a huge distinction.
What an infuriating and sad day. I guess all the baby oil paid off for P. Diddy because he was too slippery for the justice system. I cannot believe it. They have now reached a verdict on all the charges, and he has been acquitted of the most serious ones. The Lord of Lube wiggles his way out of it somehow, despite overwhelming evidence to support the allegations against P. Diddy about the decades worth of evil, criminal activities and actions he has done, terrorizing the music industry and so many individuals. It seems like the dawn of is about to get away with a slap on the wrist, and maybe not even that much. He's been found guilty on 2 of the lesser charges, which could carry a maximum of 20 years in prison, but I've completely lost faith in the system here. I have to imagine this is all just now horseradish and barnacles. I think he will probably just get away with like 6 months probation or something.
Because this wasn't just a trial about one man's crimes. This was about an empire built on fear and silence. Cassie sat in that courtroom while heavily pregnant, just 2 weeks from giving birth, and told the world about the private horrors she endured for over a decade. Graphic stories, fueled by substances, power, and manipulation. Her voice didn't shake. But when that verdict dropped, you could hear the air leave the room. The jury found Diddy not guilty of ST, not guilty of racketeering. Only 2 convictions stuck, both for work-related offenses under the Mann Act. The worst charges, the ones that symbolize everything Cassie had survived in racketeering, gone.
You want to know how this happened? Well, I think it's pretty simple. The system did what it's designed to do. Not serve justice, but preserve power. Diddy had the best lawyers money could buy. He had publicists spinning every headline. He had years of practice silencing his victims. He didn't win in spite of the system. He won because of it. This is how it's supposed to work. For them, for the elites, not for you, not for victims, but for the rich, the famous, the connected. They put on a show, a trial with all the drama. But the ending was already written. And the ending was this. Diddy gets a record, sure, but no punishment, no jail, no consequences that actually changes his life. Just another scandal to bury with millions of dollars. If you walk away from this thinking that Diddy lost, you weren't paying attention. He was convicted, yes, but he won. He won because he beat the most serious charges. He won because he gets to go home. He won because the world will forget and his empire will go on. And Cassie, she'll be remembered as brave, but she'll carry that trauma forever. This isn't justice. This is America. This is our government. And no one can ever convince me that they were serious about this case when they brought it. They were not serious. I think the government re-traumatized victims, Cassie in particular, and they just put on a distraction. They put on a show to have us all look and point and say, when the real puppet masters, the real crimes, the real things we've heard about Diddy go unchecked. He'll never, ever face any consequences for the things that he's done.
Cassie Ventura didn't just take the stand. She lit the match that set everything on fire. And while Sean Diddy Combs may have walked away from the most serious charges of and racketeering, it was Cassie's raw, unfiltered truth that ultimately pushed the jury to find him guilty of transporting women for S-work. That one conviction, it exists because she spoke. Her attorney, Doug Wigdor, delivered a powerful message moments after the mixed verdict dropped.
You know, she went through a year-long process of preparing for this trial. I thought, and I think people who saw her testify, she was a great witness. She was graceful. She shined a light on this. Jane read the complaint. She came forward. Many other people have come forward, are going to be seeking to hold Sean Combs responsible in the civil courts. And so it's not all lost. He's now, as I said, he's never been held responsible for anything in his lifetime. He was acquitted on charges when he was in New York with a gun case, and now he is a two-time convicted felon, 2 federal charges. The government indicated after the jury verdict was read that they're going to be seeking consecutive terms, and they're going to be seeking lengthy prison incarceration. And so Cassie was comforted in knowing that not only has she played a role in the criminal prosecution.
And he wasn't exaggerating. Without Cassie, there would have been no investigation, no federal raid, no court case, nothing. But still fans believed that something was amiss during the verdict. And believe it or not, Chris Cuomo was the one who connected the dots.
Found that the government overreached. They made a federal crime out of Diddy's immoral lifestyle. He was convicted on 2 charges of paying for workers to cross state lines, which by all lights, he did. He's guilty. But all this for that? A law originally from 1910 that was called the White Slave Act, that was really just about, the government kind of censoring relationships they didn't like? Not that human trafficking isn't real, but human trafficking implies what? That you're taking people who don't want to be taken and doing things to them that they don't want done. Okay? No one here said that they didn't want to go. They were adults as far as we know. So was it illegal? Federally, yes. Is it worth all this? The jury said, basically, no. This case proves that people don't buy what the government says anymore, and they're not wrong to feel that way. A guy just said to me on the subway, they painted Diddy like Gotti and got. Sure, New York City speak maybe, but it's a pretty accurate portrayal. The government wanted you to believe that Diddy was like John Gotti, that he was a one-man criminal organization. So they used a law for criminal organizations, RICO, to trump up the charges, okay? And the jury rejected it, as well as rejecting the idea that Diddy was guilty of trafficking Cassie Ventura and another woman, the unnamed girlfriend, Jane. Now, I had a suspicion this was going to go this way.
Oh, it's all just so chummy inside the courtroom for this disgusting pervert female who I can't believe is about to roam our streets again. I'm sorry, I'm disgusted by this verdict. This is ridiculous. I just find it absolutely outrageous, the amount of crime that this guy just got away with. I believe he committed arson. He definitely battered Cassie. He battered Jane too. The statute of limitations for battery in Los Angeles and California is 1 year. 1 year. So if they didn't charge him for battery within 1 year, and they couldn't because he bought the tape and it remained hidden thanks to those security guards out there, then they could never charge him with that again. There's no question. He dragged her back into that hotel room. Why wasn't that kidnapping? They only talked about the kidnapping of Capricorn Clark, who was his sort of main assistant, because she said he grabbed her and made her go with him over to Kid Cudi's house. There's no question he broke into Kid Cudi's house, in my view, and that he opened up the Christmas presents and locked the door in and made a threat. There's no question in my mind he was behind the arson of Kid Cudi's car, and there was proof, plenty of proof to prove that. No, okay, there was female fingerprints they found on that, the firebomb that was left there, the Molotov cocktail. And the prosecution said there's no question he didn't do it himself, but he said, I'm going to bomb Kid Cudi's car. It's in writing. Cassie Ventura emailed her mother saying, oh my God, he's threatening to bomb his car. And 2 weeks later, it got bombed. Oh gee, it was just some third party who also had, it's just like the proof was there. Yeah. The beatings, the threats that if they didn't go back into those rooms and get off with these male escorts, that they were gonna get beaten. The testimony from that Daniel Phillip, who was the male escort, who heard Combs abusing Cassie behind the door, and she was screaming, I'm sorry, as he heard him slapping her. Get back out there. She came back out. She was shaking. She got back into the escort's lap, physically shaking. She was so scared to the point where that guy couldn't perform because this was so horrifying to him. What in the actual F went on in there?
To understand how brutal that moment was for her, you have to rewind to where this all began. November 2023, Cassie files a civil lawsuit out of nowhere. No press, no PR rollout. Just the cold truth. R, years of mistreatment. T, beatings, even being forced into S with male escorts while Diddy watched. Within 24 hours, it was settled. Just like that. Whispers said it was over $20 million. But then May 2024 comes, and the world sees the video. Security footage leaks. Diddy stomping Cassie in a hotel hallway, dragging her like trash. His apology came late and was, frankly, hollow. But it was real. So was the backlash.
Disturbing video has surfaced appearing to show music mogul Sean Diddy Combs beating his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura in 2016 in Los Angeles. The video obtained by CNN seems to corroborate what Ventura alleged in a federal lawsuit that has since been settled.
The incident was part of the allegations made in a lawsuit settled in November, one of several accusing Combs of and other illegal activities. It also comes on the heels of a raid by federal authorities at Combs' Los Angeles mansion in March, at what the Department of Homeland Security confirms is part of an ongoing trafficking investigation. Combs has denied any wrongdoing to all allegations.
That footage becomes the centerpiece of the federal case. Prosecutors raid Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami, launch a full-on RICO investigation, and build a trafficking and S-work case around his alleged network of control. They claim it was decades in the making. The trial begins in May 2025, and for 7 weeks, the courtroom turns into a battlefield. Cassie, stoic and pregnant, takes the stand and unloads years of torment. She talks about freak-offs, wild S-parties with strangers. She says she was under the influence, filmed, beaten, silenced. The jury hears it all.
And starting out with from the very beginning, she talked about the right off the back, saying that he would mash her head, knock her over, drag her, kick her, knock her in her head if she was on the ground. And she said it happened too frequently, that there were violent arguments that turned often into physical. and that he asked her within the first year of their relationship to begin these freak-offs. She said that when he asked her that her stomach fell into her butt, that she was only 24 years old, and that she really couldn't comprehend how somebody would want their girlfriend to be doing something along the lines of what Sean Combs was asking her to do, but that she not only loved him so much that she felt the need to do it, but also that she felt it was her responsibility as his girlfriend to do this. And so over the course of years, she said he initially planned everything, and then it became her job to set everything up, but that she says she set everything up at his direction. We went through.
But hearing and believing are two different things. When the jury returned on July 2nd, the air inside the Manhattan courtroom shifted like a thunderclap. As the foreperson, juror number 5, began reading the verdict, Sean Diddy Combs stood tall, eyes fixed forward. Then came the words, "Not guilty." And at that moment, he pumped his fist. The room watched as the man accused of trafficking and mistreatment smiled, then dropped to his knees by the defense table. It was a victory pose, not for justice, but for a man who just dodged decades behind bars.
The main things he got off on is exactly what he wanted, which was the RICO stuff. That was the dangerous stuff. The lawyer comes out and says, we accept the fact that he paid for people and, but not trafficking, not any of that stuff. And because of that, they say the lawyers on the other end totally royally screwed up.
He was smug and right back to his entitled self in court yesterday evening, demanding to speak to the judge personally when he gathered that he wasn't going to be allowed to remain free. Because earlier, once he had been acquitted of those serious charges and found guilty on the least serious, I mean, it's not a walk in the park, the time that you have to do on the counts, but it's way lighter than he would have gotten. He was super jubilant. He was allowed by this court to get down on his knees in the middle of the courtroom and pray to God, thank God. He's a God-fearing man. He's super faithful. In between beatings of the girlfriends he's with, he loves to beat them to a pulp and then pray to his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. That's how it works. So he, at that point in the trial proceedings, was like, the judge made some stupid, inappropriate joke about how I'm sure you'd love to leave the detention center, Mr. Combs. And inappropriate in tone and comment in substance. And Diddy was like, yes, he put his hands together like, oh yes, oh, laughing with his hands, like praying, please do that for me, judge. Give me a break. I threw up in my mouth. And then by the time they got back at 5 o'clock to actually issue a ruling on whether he could stay free, the judge, who was a newbie, had apparently spoke with some more seasoned judges on the bench in SDNY and said, get your ass back to prison. And at that point, Diddy reportedly looked stunned and forlorn, and his newfound hubris walked out the door with him because he was like, I just need to speak to the judge directly. He's convinced he's Diddy. He can charm his way out of anything. And I do believe his wealth, his fame, his swagger charmed this jury right out of finding that he had trafficked these women, not to mention guilty of the RICO claim, which I think they had him dead to rights on.
And the celebration didn't end there. His 3 daughters, his sons, his mother, and a full row of supporters were seated just feet away, cheering, clapping, even a thumbs up from his mother outside the courtroom. It felt like a scene from a twisted movie, because despite 2 guilty verdicts for work-related charges, Combs wasn't acting like a man convicted. He was celebrating like he'd been crowned. Meanwhile, Cassie Ventura, who had just weeks earlier exposed years of torment and trauma, was forced to watch it all unfold. Her attacker wasn't just walking away with a partial win. He was applauded for it. And for Cassie, standing there after everything she testified to, that moment wasn't just injustice. It was her worst nightmare playing out in front of cameras and cheers.
They found him guilty, and yet he walks away as if nothing even happened. A felony conviction and still no jail time. Cassie spoke the truth. The jury heard it. But in the end, power won, money won, and Sean Diddy Combs walked away like he always does, untouchable. This is the kind of story that makes you question everything. Not just the legal system, but the illusion that justice is somehow blind. Because here we are, after months of brutal testimony, evidence that made your stomach turn, and a federal trial that dragged Diddy's darkest secrets into the light. And still somehow, the man gets to walk. Yes, he was convicted. 2 little felonies. But let's not pretend that matters when you're a billionaire wrapped in lawyers and NDAs. The real verdict? Cassie lost. The victims lost. And the system proved it serves fame more than it serves truth. If you thought justice was coming, you were wrong, just like I was. Let's break it down the way the mainstream media just won't. Sean Diddy Combs was found guilty on 2 felony counts of violating the Mann Act, transporting women across state lines. On paper, yeah, it sounds like a win for accountability. Like maybe, just maybe, the victims have finally cracked through the armor of celebrity and money. But dig even an inch deeper, and it becomes clear this wasn't justice, it was damage control. Because while the jury found Diddy guilty of getting the women there, listen to this, they refused to say he did anything once they arrived. Huh? He was acquitted on racketeering, trafficking, drug conspiracy, and kidnapping. The most serious prison-worthy charges. They're just now wiped clean. The things that could have brought real time, real consequences, gone. In the legal system, it's not just about guilt, it's about the type of guilt. And those 2 felony accounts, they don't carry the weight that they should. Not for someone with endless resources. Diddy's walking free because the jury gave him the bare minimum. They found that one area they couldn't deny. Yes, he transported these women, but then they looked at everything else, the freak-offs, the beatings, the surveillance footage, and said, let's not go that far. It's a sick compromise, and it let Diddy claim a twisted kind of victory, a felony record, sure, but no handcuffs, no perp walk, no cell. Are you kidding me right now?
Wigdor's statement added, she displayed unquestionable strength and brought attention to the realities of powerful men in our orbit and the misconduct that has persisted for decades without repercussion. This case proved that change is long overdue, and we will continue to fight on behalf of survivors.
And we did hear from the attorney for Cassie Ventura outside of court. Let's listen in to see what he had to say.
We're pleased that he's been held responsible for something, which is something that hasn't happened in his lifetime. And, we're hopeful that ultimately he receives a substantial sentence for what he's done. And, we're pleased that Cassie's brought to light everything that has happened in this trial. I just spoke with her and with the U.S. Attorney's Office team, and she's in a good place. She's pleased that, again, that the jury has found him liable, or guilty of 2 federal crimes.
And we were just listening to Douglas Wigdor, Cassie Ventura's attorney, who said he spoke with her and that she was doing okay.
They're right, because they did what dream teams do. They protected their golden client from the one thing he feared, accountability. This wasn't a somber moment for Diddy. It was relief, the kind of relief you feel when you know you've just dodged a bullet. 2 felony convictions with no real threat of prison? For any average man, that would be devastating. For Diddy, it's a public relations hiccup. He'll pay a fine, maybe do some rehab, press runs, and then he'll be right back on his yacht parties, private jets, and gated mansions. That's not punishment, that's a speed bump. And the message is clear. If you're rich enough, connected enough, and untouchable enough, even being guilty doesn't matter. And let's not lose sight of who carried this entire case on her back. Cassie Ventura didn't just speak out. She relived years of trauma, humiliation, and under oath. She testified while pregnant, gave birth during the trial, and still returned to finish her story. Guys, this is not courage, it's heroic. She told the jury about the freak-offs, the violence, the surveillance, the control. She described being dragged through hotel hallways, being monitored 24/7, being forced into acts she didn't want and couldn't escape. She wasn't alone either. Other women backed up her story. Hotel surveillance videos backed her story. Financial records backed her story. But in the end, the jury only believed the least damaging part, the part about travel. They were too afraid or too biased or too conditioned by celebrity worship to confront the real weight of what she endured. They gave her breadcrumbs and called it justice. But let's be honest, it's a slap in the face because Cassie did everything a victim is supposed to do. She told the truth. She provided evidence. She showed up. And what did she get in return? A system that bent over backwards to protect the man who hurt her. That is not justice. That is betrayal, plain and simple. And I want to say it is 100% the government's fault. When the verdict came down, Cassie could have lashed out. She could have screamed, protested, or condemned the system. But instead, she issued a calm, measured statement that said more than any courtroom verdict ever could. I'm grateful that the jury saw the truth. This case was never about money. It has always been about accountability. It's about healing. It's about making sure no one else has to go through what I went through.
In social media, it exploded. Yang justice for Cassie trended within minutes. Some fans demanded an appeal. Brian Allen, a podcast host, captured the prevailing sentiment on X when he posted, "So, let me get this straight. Diddy was found not guilty of Steve, but somehow guilty of transporting someone for S-work? How does that even work?" One X user wrote that, "This Diddy trial is proof that you can do anything if you got money." In perhaps the weirdest response to the trial's outcome, fellow hip-hop artist 50 Cent took to Instagram to congratulate his longtime rival, writing, "That boy a bad man." The rapper called Diddy the gay John Gotti, in an apparent reference to the infamous mafioso, who was also acquitted of federal racketeering charges. Critics weren't just angry, they were heartbroken. Another celebrity walks, another woman left bleeding publicly.
I don't understand logically how a jury can find him not guilty of trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, but guilty of transportation to engage in. This does not track to me, but we will get into it in a moment. I also want to talk about the ways in which this was covered in both New York City tabloids and national publications. And this tells us everything about how these publications want us to think. The Daily News, which at this point is largely irrelevant, but it's a good front page. Diddy spared the worst. It's got the court sketch of him praying to God theatrically, a God who I think has long since stopped taking Sean Combs' calls. The Journal, front page, above the fold. Above the fold is a huge deal. Sean Diddy Combs, this courtroom sketch on his hands and knees in a supplicant position, begging for his freedom.
It's highly likely that this case goes far beyond Diddy and what we think has happened. PBD connected the dots no one had the galls to do.
The entire case for me starts and ends with, do you believe Diddy has videos of men hooking up with men, celebrities hooking up with celebrities who were other men involved, boys involved? Do you believe Diddy has videos like that? If your answer is no, then I know where you're going to go with this. If your answer is yes, then you have multiple options of where to go. I'm convinced the answer is yes. And he has a lot of videos of these celebrities. And if the answer is yes, guess what I believe happens? Those people who are powerful people who produce billions of dollars of revenue and commissions to people in Hollywood and different industries have access to a lot of powerful people. They're going to do whatever they can to make sure these things don't make it out to the public, and then that's where we are today. That's it. It's that simple. It's actually not that complicated for me. It's very simple for me. Why did Epstein's videos not make it out to the public? You have a choice. Do you believe Epstein did what he did with underage girls and bring in celebrities and powerful political figures and billionaires in there, where a guy that paid him $170 million in consulting fees for tax advice? You know who I'm talking about, right?
Leon Black, I believe.
Yeah, Leon Black and all these guys. Wait, these guys paid you that kind of money? Yes. So you don't think anything happened? I believe something happened. Then why would Maureen Comey be involved in that, and Damian Williams? Why would they be involved in these things? Well, maybe they're protecting somebody. Who knows?
Because once you take a look back at Diddy's history, it's not hard to understand. Cassie was only 19 when she met Diddy. He signed her to Bad Boy Records in 2005. Her debut single, Me and You, became a hit. But behind the scenes, her life was morphing into a gilded cage. By 2007, they were romantically involved. But this wasn't a romance. It was conditioning in high heels. Cassie told the court how she was controlled emotionally, financially, even physically. She couldn't release music without permission, couldn't travel, couldn't breathe without him knowing. And then there's the most disturbing detail, the hotel attack. It happened in 2016. Surveillance footage caught it all. Cassie leaving their room, Diddy chasing her down, violently dragging her back, shoving, kicking, screaming. The court saw that tape. So did we. He apologized only after CNN leaked it. In court, his defense said it was consensual roughhousing. Can you imagine? You beat a woman on video and call it foreplay. The jury didn't convict him on attack, but the world saw the truth.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you gotta do that. I was up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it, I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
And that wasn't the only time money seemed to cloud justice. After Cassie's 2023 lawsuit, Diddy's legal team moved fast. Less than 24 hours later, the case was settled. No depositions, no admissions, just cash and silence. But that silence didn't last. The criminal trial reawakened the public's fury. And this time, even with the full might of federal prosecutors, Diddy still walked on the biggest charges. Legal experts now debate whether RICO was too ambitious or if the prosecution miscalculated. Either way, the system looked broken.
How much time, Whitney, is Sean Combs facing?
Well, he's actually facing up to 20 years. It's 10 years on each count on the transportation to engage in, which is significant. And obviously we'll have the sentencing soon. But overall, this was a major victory, I think, ultimately for Sean Combs, because he was facing up to life on those racketeering and trafficking. That racketeering is a very serious charge. So the fact that he got a not guilty on that was really a major defense verdict.
Whitney, can those two charges that he was found guilty of, will those be concurrently or consecutively?
Now that I don't know in California. So no, he can face up to 20 years. So it's going to be each charge is going to be 10 years. So we're going to see the sentencing, and one of the big issues there is whether he's going to remain in custody. And I think the judge has asked for oral arguments on that at 1 o'clock Eastern. So we'll know more at that time. And she's asking for arguments from both sides at 1 o'clock.
What is the basis there? What does the judge consider when deciding if somebody is going to be released, waiting for that sentencing to happen?
Well, I think it's various issues related to his opportunity to stay in the country and that type of thing. So there's going to be, and it's interesting because these charges, the significant charges, I actually think he's going to, the judge is going to release him, but we'll know shortly.
So when they're considering how much time he will be in prison, what goes into that decision? Because max 20 years, but do they look at priors? What else are they looking at to see how much time he'll spend?
Right, there's going to be mitigating and aggravating factors. So that's going to be the argument is what was the extent of the charges, his history, what was testified at the evidence that came out at trial. And there was some really significant testimony that came out at trial, but obviously the jury didn't believe a lot of the testimony. I mean, there were over 40 witnesses, and a big part of it was this notion of coercion. Was it consensual? And I think that's where the prosecution really didn't secure the victory, because obviously the jury did not feel that that it was not consensual.
For Cassie, this wasn't just about justice. It was about history, about reclaiming the narrative. And even though the jury only gave her part of what she asked for, the fight isn't over. Sources close to Cassie say she's preparing a civil damages case, separate from her 2023 settlement. There's talk of a book deal, a documentary, maybe even a survivor's fund. She's also been quietly working with advocacy groups. What started as trauma is now becoming a purpose. And yet, there's still this ache, this open wound. Fans feel it, survivors feel it. When the verdict dropped, many called it a split message. Like the court said, yes, you were heard, but not enough. The S-Work convictions confirmed that Diddy did pay for S across state lines, including with women he manipulated. But the T charges, that proof of systemic exploitation, the jury just didn't see enough. And now it is possible that Cassie would live a life of a fugitive, since Diddy might be out and about sooner than later.
Diddy Combs could walk free today. He was found not guilty on 3 of the 5 counts, and Brian Steele, his lawyer, has now asked for a $1 million bond so that he can walk out today. Can you believe, out of all of these counts, that the jury, out of 3 out of the 5 counts, they found him not guilty? This has been, for him, I mean, he's been in jail now for what, 4 or 5 months? He's gonna come back, he's gonna be able to color his hair again. I stopped coloring mine. He's gonna color his hair again because he's all gray. His beard is gray, his hair is gray. He's gonna be able to walk out and have a party tonight after midnight. And guess, all the same characters will be there at that party if he gets out. Guaranteed.
Now the question becomes, what happens next? For Diddy, prison time is still possible on the Mann Act charges, but appeals are likely. His lawyers already promised they'll fight it, so this was her worst nightmare. Not the mistreatment, not the silence, but watching the man who shattered her walk free. The world has changed since the Me Too movement, but today proved that not every monster gets unmasked. Still, she stood. Still, she spoke. And that is something no verdict, no judge can ever take away. Do you believe Diddy got away with it, or did justice run its course? If you like this video, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss out on any new videos. And until then, fam, keep it real.